Joining us right now is former presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson. Dr. Carson, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You too, Maria.
So let's go
me.
through the two plans, your reaction to both of these plans, and the impact that you expect on economic growth, sir.
Well, these plans are diametrically opposed to each other. Donald Trump has laid out a plan that really encourages the economy to grow. Our problems cannot be solved by taxing people more. One says, here's the pie, let's keep chopping it up and distributing it. And the other is saying, let's make a whole bunch of pies so that everybody can benefit from it. That essentially is what is going on here. Hillary's plan is very old and tired. Let's tax the rich.
Yeah. And
somehow that's going to solve our problems. I can tell you, you can take every penny from the rich, and it won't even come close to solving our problems.
Yeah,
because of the kind of debts that we have and that we're accumulating.
We were just looking at a graphic, Dr. Carson, of the 7 or 8 brackets that is part of Hillary Clinton's plan. And I think, let's show this graphic once more. One thing that people are not talking about is the taxes on middle income. Because we keep talking about taxing the rich, but frankly, if you're making anything more than $91,000, you've got on that money, you've got a federal tax of 28%. When you pile on the 10% state tax, that takes you to 38%, and the 7% that is a city tax and an Obamacare tax, that takes you to 45% of your income that you're going to pay above $91,000. I don't see how that moves the needle on economic growth if people are shelling out all that money in their paychecks.
Exactly, and that's not the end of it. That's the beginning of it. And the definition of who's rich continues to change. You go back and look at the story of Argentina. They used to be the #2 economy in the world, and then they got into this spiral. Let's tax the rich, and the definition of the rich kept going down, 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 down until pretty soon it encompassed virtually everybody, and now they're in ruins. It's like the Lord said, here you are. This is what happens when you do this. Just read this. And what the Democrats and the socialists are asking us to do is disregard what our eyes and our ears and our brain is telling us and just listen to them, because they know what's best. And I think the American people are actually much smarter than that.
Yeah, and of course, I know, Jack Otter, part of Hillary Clinton's plan is this infrastructure build, and she says that she's going to create all these jobs, millions of jobs, because of the infrastructure plan. But you wonder, you have to pay for that with something, and it is going to come from higher taxes.
Well, Donald Trump has a much better idea of how to take care of that. We've got over $2.1 trillion overseas, which we can bring back. We can incentivize that being brought back and use that for infrastructure, for, helping in the inner city and various places with enterprise zones, and creating a mechanism for people to climb out of dependency and become part of the fabric and strength of this country. That's what America is about. It's not from warfare between all the different groups. That's not who we are. We have to reject that.
I was going to say that you can come from another place, which ain't so great either, which is instead of taxing, you borrow. That's how it's often funded by government, and that's why the national debt keeps on going up and up and up. So that's not good. The only good news is, and a lot of economists, this is not a Democrat-Republican thing, a lot of mainstream economists believe that given that we have reached the limits of monetary stimulus, I mean, in this country, rates are as low as they've ever been. In the rest of the developed world, they're actually negative, and they're not getting any benefit from that. Making rates more negative in Switzerland or Germany is not going to, or Japan is not going to boost the economy there. So many economists believe that the next step is going to be this sort of stimulus. Now, the problem is when you let government spend money, it's often done really badly.
And then they have to raise it somewhere else.
Right. If we could figure out a way to have intelligent stimulus, I do think it's one of the few levers left, but intelligent is the key word, and it's very hard to pull off.
What do you think, Dr. Carson?
Well, the intelligent stimulus is taking those trillions of dollars that are overseas, allowing them to be repatriated with no taxes, but saying that 10% of it must be used in enterprise zones for infrastructure and to create jobs for people who are unemployed, underemployed, or on welfare. It would be the biggest stimulus since FDR's New Deal, and it wouldn't cost the taxpayers 1 penny. Low-hanging fruit. and it gets corporate America once again interested in investing in the communities around them, which they used to do before the government took it over and did a terrible job of it.
Yeah.